Oscar Wilde was in love with Bosley, who was years his junior, and went to prison because of it. When he was freed, the first thing on his mind was to find Bosley. Love is love and comes in every shape, form, color, language, sexual orientation, and age difference. Stop judging those who love each other. Enough is enough. It is consensual and between them. Oscar Wilde was an example to show you that love is love. I could have taken the example of Priscilla, who fell in love with Elvis when she was 15. You need to stop judging those who are in love. Watch the movie Noche Blanche, 1989. Then decide if you think it's rape or not. Are you telling me that at 15 you can't fall in love? Those are comments posted by user Annie Matronic on my last video. Welcome to the Narcissistic Resistance, everybody. As much work as we do here, these people are not going away. They are normalizing this shit. Openly. Write in the comments. Openly. Who makes famous people the arbiter of our morality? You star fucker. Who gives a shit about Elvis and Priscilla? Two music industry people? Oh, and whose heroes were they? Whose idols were Elvis Presley? Who? Oh, what? Baby boomers. Baby boomers didn't have a problem with that. Huh. Wonder if that's a coincidence to what I've been talking about on my channel. I don't make moral judgments based off of fucking Hollywood movies, you twit. You are a useful idiot of the left. I don't decide whether something is rape or not off of a Hollywood fucking production. And yes, I'm telling you, a 15-year-old 99.9% of the time cannot fall in love. They're too selfish. Because they're teenagers. They're supposed to be. Does that mean they don't get emotional and scream and yell and sometimes really overreact in the worst way over it? No, of course that happens. But it's not due to love. It's due to a social immaturity which makes them minors and unable to make decisions on their own. Love. I'll die with them. I'll die if they break up with me. Well, ask that same 15-year-old person this. Would you kill yourself so that person could live? Huh? What? No, because it's all about their supply at 15. That's normal. That's how 15-year-olds are. This is what I'm talking about again. And this is why the channel has to change. The channel name has to change to what we are, to what I am, what this channel truly is. It's the Narcissistic Resistance. Because if you understand the principles of narcissism and personality disorders, you will see this is a larger problem than just in our personal lives. We can see it. We know it's wrong because we lived it. And just as we're finding our validation, they're not going away. This has been going on, as I've said in past videos, for decades now. Decades now. We have said, the world has said this is okay. Has given every type of abuser like this, every type of friggin' pedophile like this, look, you're crazy. This is just normal for us. French women applaud. But hold on. Hold on. MTV and the left is telling us there's no such thing as gender anymore. Gender's fluid now. Well, if there's no such thing as boys and girls and men and women in regards to bathroom policy, how could it be in charge? How could it be a difference when it comes to sexual assault? If we're normalizing fucking 15-year-old students and applauding that, well, then we're going to have to applaud the 40-year-old male gym teacher banging the 15-year-old cheerleader. Do you see it now? Do you see how this works now? I know I have a lot of lefties on here, but you have to see your side of the equation, what is actually going on. It is all detrimental, because if you're watching my channel, you've been abused. You've been the victim of this type of abuse that societally is using you the same friggin' way. When they run out of enemies, they invent new ones. You, all of us. Gives a shit about Elvis Presley. I never liked the fat fuck. Made fun of my mother when she threw herself on the floor crying that he was dead. Crying, and I think about that now. And I know I brought up Elvis. I think I brought that up way early in my video about my mother crying over that child molester. May even be in one of my earliest baby boomer videos that I already had made that connection. It's a slow roll rolling back societies like this. And now you get made fun of like there's something wrong with you. You get called the racist, the bigot, the homophobe, when you're just trying to protect a child, trying to protect your own body at some point. It's an unbelievable time we're living in, everybody, where we are openly normalizing, openly sexualizing students and saying it's okay. It's about time. And I read deeper into the Macron thing. The parents tried to separate them, but they never could. So she was fucking him from 15 until 39. Yay. Yay. Well, she, he, she, we We have no gender anymore, remember? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that leads me to this story that, to further pile on to this story that I was tagged in on Facebook by Larry. Renowned Harvard psychologist says ADHD is largely a fraud. Jerome Kagan is the most influential psychologist of the 20th century, who has expertise and moral authority to compare psychology to a rotten piece of furniture. A group of U.S. academics ranked the 100 most eminent psychologists of the 20th century in 2002, and they put Kagan in 22nd place, even above Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, 23rd, and above Ian Pavlov, who discovered the Pavlovian reflex, 24th. So this guy is ahead of Pavlov and his dog. It may be very surprising to learn that he believes that most modern diagnosis of ADHD is a mere invention rather than a serious condition. So it may be surprising for you to learn that Kagan believes that the diagnosis of ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is an invention which mainly benefits the pharmaceutical industry and psychiatrists. Kagan is well known for his pioneering work in developmental psychology at Harvard University, where he has spent decades observing and documenting how babies and small children grow, measuring them, testing their reactions, and once they've learned to speak, questioning them over and over again. He's an exceptional and highly regarded teacher. The definition of ADHD includes explanations for inattention, which means the person wanders off task, lacks persistence, has difficulty sustaining focus, and is disorganized. Hyperactivity, which means a person seems to move about constantly or displays excessively, fidgets, taps, or talks. Impulsivity, which is associated with a person that makes hasty actions that occur in the moment without first thinking about them and that they may have high potential for harm. Mislabeling mental illness. In an interview with Spiegel, Kagan addresses the skyrocketing rates of ADHD in America. He attributes to fuzzy diagnostic practices and illustrated his point with the following example. Let's go back 50 years. We have a 7-year-old child who is bored in school and disrupts classes. Back then, he was called lazy. Today, he is said to suffer from ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That's why numbers have soared, says Kagan in the interview. When asked about his opinion on the disorder, Kagan told The Spiegel that he believes ADHD is an invention. He thinks that if a child is not doing well in school, the pediatrician gives that child Ritalin. Since the cure is available to the doctors, they give the diagnosis. According to Kagan, the fact that millions of American children who are inaccurately diagnosed as mentally ill because they think there is something fundamentally wrong with them is devastating. Besides being a psychologist is determined to raise the alarm about this trend. Kagan and others feel they're up against an enormously powerful alliance, pharmaceutical companies that are making billions, and a profession that is self-interested. Kagan himself suffered from inner restlessness and stuttering as a child, but his mother told him there was nothing wrong with him, only that his mind was working faster than his tongue. He thought at that time, gee, that's great, I'm only stuttering because I'm so smart. If he had been born in the present era, he most likely would have been classified as mentally ill. However, ADHD isn't the only mental illness epidemic among children that worries Kagan. Depression is another mental illness that almost started in 1987, when about 1 in 400 American teenagers was using an antidepressant, and the numbers leaped to 1 in 40 by 2002. Keegan believes that depression is also another overused diagnosis, simply because the pills are available. Instead of immediately resorting to pharmaceutical drugs, he thinks doctors should take more time with the child to try to find out why they aren't as cheerful. Since studies have shown that people who have heightened activity in the normal frontal lobe respond poorly to antidepressants, a few tests should be carried out, an EEG for certain. It is very important for a distinction to be made. When a life event overwhelms us, it is common to fall into depression for a while. But there are those who have a genetic vulnerability and experience chronic depression. It's crucial to look not only at the symptoms, but the causes. The former are experience a certain depression caused by an event, and the latter are mentally ill. Psychiatry is the only medical profession that establishes illness on symptoms alone, and such a blind spot opens the door for few maladies, like bipolar disorder, which we never used to see in children. According to statistics, nearly 1 million Americans under the age of 19 are diagnosed bipolar. A group of doctors at Massachusetts General Hospital just started calling kids who had temper tantrums bipolar. They shouldn't have done that, but the drug companies loved it because drugs against bipolar disorders are expensive. That's how the trend was started. It's a little like in the 15th century when people started thinking someone could be possessed by the devil or hexed by a witch, said Kagan. About the alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs for behavioral abnormalities, Kagan said that we could look at tutoring as an example. It's a good start since children who are diagnosed with ADHD are mainly the children who are struggling at school. I agree with this 100%. And I've made mention to these type of disorders largely are a reaction to a traumatic event. Usually a traumatic event at home with the parents. Now, me going through starting school in the late 70s and the 80s, Ritalin wasn't readily available. So if you were a kid who couldn't sit still or was constantly looking out the window like me, I was just called lazy, stupid, asshole, and had the shit beaten out of me, like most of you my age did. Never looking at my home life, never looking at any of our home lives. It's just you. You're lazy. You're stupid. You won't do your work. You won't focus. You won't sit down. You. Well, the teachers' unions, they weren't gonna. They still wasn't good enough. Okay. Instead of figuring out what was happening with this children, tutoring the child, finding out what's really going on, is just easier to call them lazy. But then here comes societal narcissism right down the pike with good old pills and diagnoses of, oh, well, he's not lazy or stupid. And you're not a bad, neglectful parent. They're just crazy. So here's some pills that you can dope them up with. So we'll never deal with the problem. And you can go on abusing them in their doped up 1 in 40 in 2002. I think it's down to like 1 in 25 or even lower now. They want to get as many kids on this shit as possible. So you went from just being lazy to just being crazy. And your abusers, the foot soldiers, of the societal narcissists get their cover and continue their abuse campaign. So now not only, let's bring it back to where we started. So now not only do we have parents and school administrations that take no responsibility for educating and for many times making their children this way, not saying there aren't legitimate cases brought on by legitimate mental illness, but the facts bear out. It just doesn't come in a vacuum. There were no school shootings. Like, all these school kids doing school shootings are all on these drugs. But getting back, so now the school's taking no responsibility. It's not the parents' fault. It's not how you're raising your kid. You're not interacting. They need something. No, now they're crazy and drugged up. And now here's a fucking 40-year-old predator teacher looking at your 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. But it's okay now. Now it's okay. Because 65% of France said so. And we don't have genders anymore. We got doped up kids, doped up genderless kids, where love is love openly. And okay. Do you see it? Do you see it? Because if you don't, you just don't want to. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please leave your opinions in the comment section below. And if you would like your story on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like me to cover, a topic you'd like me to cover as well, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. If you're still unsure, wait for the final video link to pop up on this video. It'll give you instructions on how to do all of that. Also, remember to subscribe to my channel, like and share this video, and to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. This is Ollie Matthews, and this is The Narcissistic Resistance. Bye.